Almost everyone spends half their waking hours at work, and in that environment there is almost always one specific coworker whose personality or habits make doing your job incredibly difficult. The presence of a complex coworker has a direct, measurable impact on your health. Prolonged exposure leads to elevated stress, bouts of depression and anxiety, and a severe loss of sleep. When faced with this friction, our first instinct is usually to try and fix the person. We attempt to correct their mistakes or modify their behavior to make our own lives easier. But you cannot force another person to change. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius noted that the actions of others do not actually upset you. Your perception of their actions upsets you. You only have control over how you choose to respond. When fixing them fails, we usually turn to our second instinct, avoidance. We limit interactions, skip optional meetings, and hide out for short-term relief. Every time you dodge a difficult interaction, you train your nervous system that running away is necessary for your safety. Your brain categorizes that coworker as dangerous, even if there is no physical threat. Because you never show your brain that you can successfully handle the situation, the anxiety compounds. The next time you see them, your stress response fires even stronger. Fixing them is impossible, and fleeing only makes the anxiety worse. The only remaining option is to abandon your defensive posture and adopt a proactive strategy to engage with them. To engage a difficult person, you first have to deconstruct the narrative in your own head. We view challenging people through a dense filter of our own emotional biases and assumptions, and we have to accept an uncomfortable truth. Everyone carries pressures from their personal life into the office. Because of this, you are almost certainly someone else's difficult coworker. Every professional relationship requires balancing two fundamental human drives. Power motivates us to assert our needs. Love motivates us to seek connection. Relying too heavily on power creates fragmentation. Relying too heavily on love creates artificial harmony. Effective collaboration sits right in the middle. Effective collaboration changes depending on who you are talking to. When communicating with complex peers at your own level, you have to respect their autonomy. Instead of trying to assert control, lead with curiosity. Ask questions that prompt them to look at a problem differently. When dealing with a difficult supervisor, the approach shifts. Executives operate from a high-level perspective. Keep your communication brief and frame your pushback entirely around their strategic priorities and goals. And when communicating down the chain of command to subordinates, clarity is your main tool. You have to be extremely direct, repeat your core message frequently, and always frame transitions with hope to maintain their motivation. Tailored communication won't prevent all friction. When conflicts inevitably occur, get them out in the open as fast as possible. Letting a disagreement sit quietly in the background breeds deep resentment. Navigate that friction using intellectual honesty. Base your arguments on all the available facts, including the data that actively undermines your own position. This commitment to objective truth builds a reputation for integrity. When you consistently prioritize the best job over being right, you build the high-quality relationships necessary to advance your career. Sometimes these communication protocols completely fail. You will eventually encounter a coworker who neglects responsibilities, ignores feedback, and refuses to find common ground. Repeated mistreatment constitutes workplace bullying. These individuals often weaponize established company policies to mask their harassment. This chart shows the rate of reported workplace bullying over recent years. Since 2017, the incidence of severe mistreatment at work has spiked 68%, impacting tens of millions of careers. When you are dealing with a toxic colleague, collaboration is no longer an option. You have to pivot your strategy to containment. You contain them by setting hard boundaries. A boundary is not a tool to modify a bully's behavior. It is a rigid, transparent rule dictating exactly what you are willing to accept. Boundaries fail the moment you make a single exception. If you yield to a bully's demands just to keep the peace, you actively train them that your limits can be ignored. You enforce a boundary through consistent actions, not repeated verbal warnings. If your rule is that you don't do tasks during your lunch hour, you enforce it simply by refusing to answer your phone at noon. You cannot force unreasonable people to act reasonably. Professional empowerment comes from managing your reactions and building an unshakable perimeter around your peace of mind.